Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the Champions Report for the IBF Championship belts, that all the way from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. We're going to cover the champions and the title belts in each division in those 12 weight classes. And before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support. If you don't like what I'm doing, you can give me a thumbs down or leave me a comment letting me know why. I'm okay with the criticism. But this is going to be on the International Boxing Federation, generally the red belt, and all the champions and titles. Any updates, I do these champions reports every 2 months. It's at the end of every even month. So we're at the end of April, heading into May now, and I will give it a breakdown for each division. Let's start with the 122 pound super bantamweight division. The champion there is newly crowned champion, IBF and WBA unified champ Marlon Tapales, who scored a major upset in early April on DAZN when he defeated MJ Mirajan Akhmadaliev by a 12-round split decision. Very good fight. He stood back and boxed, which was kind of surprising, and counterpunched Akhmadaliev, who really wasn't that busy in the first half of the fight. He controlled the tempo and did very well. Second half, MJ came on very strong, closed the fight strong, but according to the judges, Tapales walked away with a 12-round split decision. So we don't yet know what Tapales is going to do. It was a mandatory fight for Tapales, so there is no rematch clause in a mandatory fight, which means Tapales can do whatever he wants in this rematch. Going forward. So Tapales, the popular sentiment is that he's likely going to fight the winner of the Fulton Inoue fight for the undisputed super bantamweight title at 122 pounds. That fight takes place July 25th on ESPN, so we're really not going to know anything for sure until then. The one thing I do know is that a fight with Inoue is very easy to make. It'd be an all-Asia fight, and that would be big since Tapales is from the Philippines. But a fight with Fulton doesn't seem completely out of the picture either, considering Tapales has worked with the PBC many times before. So I really think, especially if it's Inoue, we're going to see Tapales fighting for the undisputed title next, which would be big. Hopefully we know a little bit more by the next Champions Report, but the fight with Inoue and Fulton still will not be done by then. 126 featherweight, the reigning champion there is Luis Alberto Lopez, who captured the title in December with an upset 12-round decision over Josh Warrington. Well, Lopez is coming back to the UK as he takes on Michael Conlan on May 27th, making the first defense of his title. Gonna be an interesting fight here. I really think it's as close to 50-50 as you can get. The loser is gonna have to start over again. The winner is going to really be in the driver's seat to probably land a unification bout with Robesai Ramirez for the WBO title either later this year or next year. And Lopez, I think, has a good chance to pull it off, but I am picking Michael Conlan to win the fight by a decision. Now, I can see Lopez rallying and stopping Conlan. I think he can beat him as well. I think it's close to 50-50, but in all honesty, I got to pick Conlan in this one by a decision to defeat Luis Alberto Lopez, but that's not an easy decision for me to make. That's going to be a good fight right there. Can't wait to see it May 27th on ESPN. 130 super featherweight. The champion there is Joe Cordina, the undefeated and now two-time world champion. Cordina on April 22nd challenged Shavkat Rakhimov for the title in a mandatory fight and scored the victory, defeating Rakhimov by a 12-round split decision. He also scored a knockdown in that fight. Now going forward, the talk is that Cordina and Zelfa Barrett could be likely going to be locking up. I think that's likely to happen considering it was a mandatory fight with Rakhimov. Even though I'd love to see a rematch with Rakhimov, I think it's likely because it's an all-UK battle that we're going to see Cordina and Barrett. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Cordina and Rakhimov. Eddie Hearn definitely has a couple good options for Cordina moving forward. So hopefully by the next Champions Report, we know what's going on with that. 135 lightweight. The reigning undefeated IBF and undisputed champion is Devin Haney. We know Devin Haney returns May 20th on ESPN pay-per-view, where he will defend his IBF and undisputed world title against former unified champion and 3 division world champion Vasily Lomachenko. Gonna be a great fight right here. I can't wait to see it on May 20th. I personally am picking Vasily Lomachenko to defeat Devin Haney to capture the undisputed title, but I do think Devin Haney has a very good chance of pulling off this victory. He's actually the favorite as of right now to win the fight, and it's going to be a good one. Very technical chess match right here. I just think Lomachenko has too much in his arsenal, and he will beat Haney, but it's going to be interesting to see what goes down in that one. Can't wait, but I'm picking Vasily Lomachenko. Saturday, May 20th, ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Make sure you're checking that fight out. Next up, 140, junior welterweight. The champion there is Subriel Matias. We talked about him on the last Champions Report. He won the title back in February when he knocked out Jeremiah Ponce, and now it's up in the air on what Matias is going to do next. He has options with the PBC. They have not laid out any mandatory fights because the fight with Ponce was a mandatory fight for the vacant belt. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I hope by the next Champions Report we have some kind of idea of when he's going to be making his initial defense. 147 welterweight. The reigning and undefeated IBF unified champion is Errol Spence Jr. He also holds the WBA Super and the WBC welterweight titles. Right now, the talks are that Spence and Crawford are close to finalizing their undisputed title fight that's been a dream match for a few years now. Now, Steven Espinoza came out and said that the fight is close, but it was also close last year when it didn't happen. So when it's done, it's done. If the fight with with Crawford does not happen, then Spence is likely going to be moving up to 154 to fight Keith One-Time Thurman. So my honest opinion is that by the next Champions Report, this fight will be signed and they will be getting it on. But I am not going to expect that to go down. I'm just making that prediction. So hopefully by the next Champions Report, this fight is on the schedule. 154 super welterweight. The champion there is the IBF and undisputed champion, Jermell Charlo. Charlo was supposed to make a WBO mandatory defense back in late January against Tim Tszyu. That fight didn't happen because Charlo injured his hand. He required surgery. There was talks of a summer showdown. Now that fight looks like it's been postponed a little while longer. I think he's still going to fight Tim Tszyu next, and it's likely going to be in the fall. But right now we don't know for sure. So hopefully by the next Champions Report we find out if and when and if that fight is going to take place. 160 middleweight. The champion there is no champion. The title is currently vacant. The undefeated number one ranked contender is Esquiva Falchao. He was supposed to fight Triple G for the title. Triple G vacated the belt, and now Falchao has been ordered to fight. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's been ordered to fight somebody. It's been a few weeks now since that order went in, and the opponent has not backed out of the fight. I believe Falchao is going to get a crack at, is going to fight for the vacant title for sure, and it's going to happen within the next couple months. I believe Falchao will be your next IBF middleweight champion and have a possible showdown with Janabek Alimkhanuly, looking at a possibility in the second half of this year, since they're both the top rank in ESPN. But nothing is for sure. Hopefully that fight either happens or we at least have Falchao finalize the fight for the title by the next Champions Report. 168 super middleweight. The reigning IBF and undisputed champion is Canelo Alvarez. Canelo returns this Saturday, May 6th on DAZN pay-per-view, where he will defend his IBF and undisputed title against WBO mandatory challenger and interim champion and former world title challenger John Ryder of the United Kingdom. This fight's taking place in Mexico. I believe Canelo is going to win this fight by a stoppage in the middle to later rounds and retain all 4 of his belts. I do believe John Ryder, though, could surprise some people if Canelo is not focused on him. We'll see what happens. Saturday, May 6th, DAZN pay-per-view. 175 light heavyweight. The reigning IBF and unified light heavyweight champion is undefeated Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev holds the IBF, WBO, and WBC belts. He last fought in January when he stopped Anthony Yard while he was behind on the scorecards. Right now, it looks like Callum Smith is going to be his next opponent, which is his WBC mandatory challenger. Now, that is not written in stone, though, because there have been talks about Beterbiev and Bivol fighting for the undisputed title. We really aren't going to know until after Canelo fights John Ryder this weekend what is going to go down. Canelo is hell-bent on fighting Bivol in a rematch at 175 because he does not want to hear excuses and people criticize him if Bivol wants to move down to 168 and fight him for all 4 belts at super middleweight. But Bivol wants to fight at super middleweight. So I think that is keeping Bivol in the possibility realm of fighting Beterbiev next. But here's the caveat. It, as of now, would not be for the WBC belt, which is held by Beterbiev, because the WBC has come out and said that they will not sanction a fight that involves any Russian fighters, and Bivol is Russian, because of the current conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. So it's a lot of moving pieces surrounding this. I think it directly does center around Canelo, though, and what he's going to do. And I honestly believe whether it's 168 or 175, Canelo is going to fight Bivol in September, and then you're going to see Beterbiev and end up defending all 3 belts, the IBF particularly, against Callum Smith, the former super middleweight champion. We should know more by the next Champions Report. 200 cruiserweight. The reigning and undefeated champion there is Jai Opetaia. What we do know is that Opetaia requested an extended medical condition to rehab himself before he has to make his mandatory defense against veteran Mateusz Masternak. But that fight is going to take place. The IBF granted him that extension that is up on June 1st, and then he's going to have to negotiate his mandatory defense against Mateusz Masternak. So I think that fight will be made. I'm hoping it'll be finalized by the next Champions Report, and we can announce that. And finally, the IBF heavyweight title. That is currently held by the undefeated IBF, WBO, and WBA super heavyweight champion, Alexander Usyk. We know the proposed undisputed title showdown with undefeated WBC champion Tyson Fury is off the table and not going to happen next for Usyk. So Usyk already is in negotiations for a mandatory defense against WBA regular champion Daniel Dubois as the WBA continues to consolidate all their title belts down to 1 belt. So, and 1 champion. So right now I heard that there's a little dispute in negotiations, and if that happens, they're just going to go to a purse bid. So we should know soon, but I firmly believe that Usyk and Dubois are going to fight. I believe it's likely going to take place in July or August after the next Champions Report is announced, and I hope by that point we do announce it. If for some reason it happens before that, though, before the end of June, I will tell you right now that I believe Usyk will outbox Daniel Dubois and take a 12-round decision or a late stoppage and retain the unified titles, but consolidate the WBA title down to 1 world champion. So that's it. That's what I got. That is my IBF title Champions Report from all divisions, from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.